don't know what it is about this part of the year, but I always get to it feeling really, really drained. I guess it's the dark mornings, the dark evenings, or whatever it is, but you get to the end of the year and I certainly just want it all to sort of like go away for a while now and just stop and sit down, chill out and do absolutely nothing. But I don't stay in that mode for very long. It's not long before I start looking at things, not only photography related, but in general, and reflect on what it is I've done that's gone well, what's gone badly, what would I do more of, what I want to do less of. And photographically, that's certainly true. I suppose when I start looking at these things and thinking along the lines of what would I do differently, I'm kind of generating New Year's resolutions, but I don't like to think of them that way. New Year's resolutions are things which I always think most people break and very few people keep them, so I try and avoid them. Photographically, the things that I'm talking about are more to do how I would improve, develop and grow as a photographer. And it's a good time of the year to start looking at and thinking about our portfolios of work. If you can't separate reflection from comparison and judgment, then reflection takes on a whole new meaning. Instead of examining what you've done and looking for improvements or looking for changes or looking for growth, you start looking for success. You start comparing yourself against other people, against other measures, against winning competitions, against getting the most likes on Facebook, the most likes on Instagram. And this isn't really where true growth as a photographer comes from. You see, the problem with chasing down likes on Facebook, Instagram, winning competitions, it's not about satisfying your needs as a photographer. It's about satisfying what somebody else likes and expects and wants to see and what they will judge highly. And that has the danger of taking you down the wrong path. It can take you completely away from what your own goals are as a photographer, the things which are important to you, the things out in the landscape or whatever subject you choose to look at. It takes you down somebody else's path. So before it gets too deep, let's talk about some photographs and how I look at my portfolio. So I've got no particular sort of hard rules for my portfolio images. I wrote down here what I'm looking for every time that I do it. They need to strengthen the existing portfolio. They need to add to it in some way. They need to either through diversity or balance, and they need to improve on the weaker images. I'm not looking for a particular theme. I'm not looking for a particular style. I just want them to show a good broad spectrum and a good range of images that I'm taking. So I've got two main portfolios. I've got my Dartmoor 20 project, which is my black and white Dartmoor photographs that runs all the time, and I've also got my landscape portfolio. So this year's Dartmoor 20 portfolio has seen a number of new photographs. It's stronger, but has it evolved? It probably hasn't. It might be that the Dartmoor 20 project actually run its course and that's the end of it. But I'm going to continue photographing Dartmoor anyway. I love the place. But I certainly need to commit to visiting new locations, ones that I've not photographed before. But leaving out some of my old photographic haunts is a little bit worrying, a little bit disturbing, because it puts you in locations and places that you don't recognise, that you don't know. It challenges you as a photographer. But that's not a bad thing, is it? So let's have a look at a couple of photographs. Okay, so this is my Dartmoor portfolio 2022. As you can see, there's quite a wide range of different images in here. We've got open moorland, misty scenes, man-made structures, natural structures, bit of woodland, waterfalls and everything as well. So it's fairly diverse in terms of subject, and I'm quite happy with that. I think it is stronger than last year's on reflection looking at it now. And that's down to the new images that I've put in. Some of them take me to new locations and look at the Dartmoor and look at the landscape in a different way. So let's have a look at a couple of those new images that we've got. So this first one here, taken of this gnarled old tree with the bark stripped from some of its branches was taken in a woodland very close. I've been to it a number of times now, and I just like the way that those branches are reaching out, withered, weather beaten. It's just got a fantastic story, and that's something I'm trying to get into my landscape photography more this year, is storytelling. The second picture is a real classic black and white image. It just deals with lines of trees coming in from the left and the right. A hawthorn down in the bottom sort of left hand side fills the frame. Paths lead up to the top of Bellevator, and it just works really, really well as a simple graphic landscape image, showing some of the things which I like to see in compositions. And the top of Bellevator was a real revelation. It's always been a tour that I've overlooked and never visited. It's easily accessible, easy to get to. It seems miles away from any other sort of interest whatsoever. It's always been quite busy as well, so I've avoided it. But getting to the top was really fantastic. There was this little tree just growing on an outcrop. The tour itself is wonderful to look at. It's got lots of texture, lots of interest, lots of detail. And the background, although very blank, is good. It's all it needs. It's just about the structure of these rock formations and this tree. And I enjoyed taking this image. This has got to be my favourite image of the year. And it's also the last one that I've taken. Well, the last one that's going into this video anyway. And I just love the way that these lines of bark and tree led me into a completely blank, dark background. But it really does speak of managed woodland and plantations. The rain that had been falling brought out the texture on the bark as it was peeling off the trees, and a slight warm tone really added to the effect. I'm really pleased with the way that this had worked out. And this image, light, airy, early in the morning, a beautiful backdrop of tors and fields and rocks in the background, and just these graphic shapes of these trees. Once again, it's another area of Dartmoor which I need to explore more and visit on a more regular basis. So my general landscape portfolio this year is much stronger. I'm really pleased with the way that it's worked out. Putting it together, looking back over the images that I've taken was a really good thing to do, and it's something that I got a lot of enjoyment out of. The newer images that I've put in are more diverse in their subject matter. We've got some coastal work, some close-in sort of work on details in the landscape. We've got some stronger colours in there and some mist and some new locations, and it's really added to the strength of my overall portfolio. I only aim to maintain 20 images in each portfolio, and maybe next year I'll be getting to the point where I need to split it and have one on a particular subject. Maybe a separate monochrome and colour landscape portfolio, who knows. But let's talk you through some of the images which are going in this year. So if we look at the general portfolio, there is a wide range of images. There is some monochrome, there's some water scenes, there's some general hillside, there's some coastal, some mist, some fog, and some closer in details on what interests me in the landscape. So let's have a look at some of those in detail, shall we? Incidentally, a lot of these photographs were taken during other YouTube videos, so if you want to go and check them out, they're all on the channel there for you to look at. This first image was just a close-up. It's really using a long lens and zooming in on the detail. I really enjoyed taking it. It was just that patch of light, nothing else, just a play of light on rocks, and it came over, and I was really pleased with the way that it worked out. I've also tackled this old favourite location again, and when I first took this picture, I didn't really enjoy it. The composition isn't always 100%, but you know what? I've actually included it in the portfolio. It just seemed to fit well, and although next year it'll probably leave, I am pleased which I went back and took this location. This has got to be my favourite image of the year, I think, or certainly one of them. Pulpit Rock, absolutely stunning location down in Dorset, and this was taken just as the blue hour was beginning. The sun had just gone below the horizon, and yet we had this pink glow on the sandstone rock itself, just picking itself out, setting it off against the blue of the sea and the cold steely grey of the sky. And it was that contrast in light that I really enjoyed photographing. This morning was absolutely delightful. I didn't manage to actually get down and take a video of this because it was just too stunning to actually do a video. The mist was phenomenal, and it just hung on the water, and the way that the early morning light burnt through it and gave everything that warm, beautiful glow was really stunning. It's one of those moments, it doesn't happen very often, and it was a shame that I didn't do a YouTube video on it. But having said all of that, photography isn't all about the YouTube videos for me. It's about the moment and capturing them, and this is one of those moments where I needed to focus entirely on the photography and not on producing videos. Another first for myself and my family this year, we went on a canal boat holiday. Once again, something that was brand new. It resulted in some interesting images, and if I went again, I would be in a much better position and I would come away with even better work. But this one single image summed up the week for me. The leafy greens, the boats moored up, the countless numbers of bridges, the reflections and calm waters from first thing in the morning. Really enjoyed it. Recommend anybody doing this sort of holiday. On a couple of my autumn videos, I complained quite a lot about how bad the colours were, about what lack of interest we'd actually found. But you know what? On reflection and looking at some of these images, autumn wasn't that bad at all. This was taken late autumn. A lot of the trees had dropped their leaves, but the browns and the oranges and the yellows and the misty sort of soft dawn lighting in the background was fantastic. The sheen on the water and just the reflective quality of that light illuminating the scene was wonderful, and it was a moment which I was really pleased to be able to capture. And like the first new image to go into this portfolio this year, this one focuses in on the detail as well. And it was really good to look at how you could go in, zoom in on that real reflective quality of the light and capture an autumnal feeling picture. The yellows and the browns reflecting on the hillside on the other side of the valley in this pool of water. It sort of summed up that moment for me in the woodland exactly. So that kind of brings to an end the new images which I've put into the portfolio this year. But just before I show you the portfolios at the end, I just want to talk a little bit about why bother and how does this help your photography. So why bother with this process? What's the point? Well, as I started off at the beginning saying that I believe that if all you do is compare your work against what else is in social media, what else you can get from looking at other people's work and comparison, from your performance in competitions, then your photography won't truly grow in the direction that you want it to grow in. It'll be growing in the direction that gets you these rewards, which isn't necessarily the same thing. Now, I'm not knocking competitions and exhibitions and feedback from social media totally, because it will help you grow, but only to a point. Sitting down and looking at your own portfolio, examining your own work, looking at how it's improved, strengthened, matured, altered during the previous 12 months, 6 months, or whatever period of time you decide to do it over, can only help you move forward. A little bit of reflection points the way towards the future. So why not put your comments below and tell me what you're aiming to do with your photography this year? And then come back in 12 months' time and ask yourself, did you manage to do that? For me, personally, looking at my portfolio, I want to get into more detail of photography. I want to get into more detailed images, more close-up work, picking out some really important unnoticed points of the landscape, like the picture I had of the reflections and the one that I had of the light on the rock in the water. Very simple images, but very effective, and all down to the interaction and the play of light. I also want to try new locations. I made a commitment last year to try and get to the coast more, and that didn't happen. Not as much as I would like it to. But I've got a little project going on outside, which is converting a van, which will give me greater legs, more freedom, and I'll be able to go a little bit further afield and try some new locations. So hopefully 2022 is going to bring greater diversity into my portfolio once again. Who knows? Maybe at the end of the year I'll have enough to split the portfolio and have a separate one for coast or a separate one for the intimate landscape as well. So before I leave you with a quick slideshow of this year's new portfolio images, I just want to say once again, have a very Merry Christmas. Best wishes to you and all of your families. I've got one more video hopefully coming up before the new year. If I don't see you before then have a fantastic new year as well. And I'll see you in 2022.